Starting recording and okay. All right. Welcome to today's class. We're OpenStack and VMware VCP Day 6. I'm your trainer architect Sal Cosentino. Today's date is April 25th, 2025. I'm in this class. I'm going to start off with just reviewing a little bit of some issues that we had in the last week or so with questions that came up from the panel and from the group of students. So this is sort of like my I'm going to leave the first 5-10 minutes to sort of like a ticket session where I have some tickets that come in and questions that are asked, and this is where I'm going to actually help and answer and show you guys how to resolve these issues with the questions that you have. So I want to talk about what is Intel VT, right, /D, and then there's also what Intel VT /X is, and its difference. Here's some links after that I'm going to post for you guys, so you guys can take a look and review that in your on your spare time. So I'm going to post this in our chat. So these are some great links, right? So we look at what Intel VT /D is versus what Intel VT /X is. Intel VT stands for Intel Virtualization Technology. The -D is called direct IO or direct input output. So in abbreviations, Intel VT /D. So it's Intel Virtualization Technology for Directed IO. What that is, and you'll notice that a lot of laptops, desktops, or virtual machines have this option. It's a hardware feature, typically a hardware feature, that enhances the security and performance of virtualized environments. This allows virtual machines to directly access and manage the I/O devices. Intel VT also provides a way for VMs to interact with hardware components without relying on the host operating system, which improves reliability, performance, and security. Intel VT-D allows addresses in incoming input-out device memory transactions to be remapped to different host addresses. This also provides virtual machine monitor, which is a VMM software with the improved reliability, security, which uses device isolation when using hardware-assisted remaps, and then improved I/O performance and availability by direct assignments of devices. So to basically, explain this in a term where it's understandable, what it's saying is Intel VT for directed device is sort of a technology, or AMD, sorry, not just Intel, but also AMD, because AMD also has it, and they call it VI. From what I remember, AMD also has it, they call it VI. So what that does is it isolates, when we talk about assisted remapping, what that does is it isolates devices between the VM securely. So one VM can't mess with another device. Okay? You with me?
Yes.
When we talk about direct assignment of devices, we talk about when this how to explain it. So this will allow like your VM to directly control a physical device for faster or more stable input output. So this is sort of used for like our home labs, for Hyper-V, for ESXi, or even Proxmox, which we talked about briefly. So to know when you're dealing with these device pass-throughs or SR-IOV setups, they're called. So sort of like when your GPU, your NIC, or your storage path through to VMs. I don't know if you've heard of that term, where there's you have like a device pass-through in a setup environment where your GPUs, your NIC cards, and your storage pass through to the VMs. So that's what device pass-through is. Um, it's not something you typically need to architect as architects or troubleshoot, but it's good to know the differences and why they're there, right? So when you see them, for example, in our VM settings, you'll see them in our VM settings when we edit the settings in our virtual machines, when we're in our Workstation Pro, or we're in our Hyper-V, or we're in our Proxmox, or we're in our Oracle Virtual Box Manager. So you'll see these options within that. The opposite to Intel is AMD VI. So that's the opposite to that. Then there's also something called, what is Intel VTX, right? And again, Intel VTX is a virtualization technology, right? Dash X. So what that does is it's a hardware assisted technology that when we combine software-based virtualization solutions, right? And this is what Intel says, that provides maximum system utilization by consolidating multiple environments into a single server or client. What does that mean? Um, so when we look at the processor with an Intel VT, it doesn't guarantee that the virtualization will work on your system, but it requires that your computer system with the chipset, with the BIOS, and enabling the software operating system and/or operating system, the device driver and applications are meant for the design of this feature. So making sure that your computer system is ready for that. Here's a link here too that I'm going to post in the chat for you guys, so you guys can kind of take a look at that. So I'm going to post this for you guys here. Give me 1 second. Oops. Just going to post this in our chat. So you can kind of take a look at that. And that's where I kind of grabbed that information from. If you need to learn a little bit more, there's some great help desk knowledge base documentation for you to look at. I will post that in our WhatsApp as well too. Okay. So like it's pretty straightforward. It does, like Intel VTX. Again, it's just a technology. It works with software-based solutions, right? Software-based virtualization solutions. Um, like I said, like VirtualBox, like Hyper-V. It enables you to run your system so that you can run multiple operating systems within your virtual machines on the same physical machine. Okay, so that's what Hyper-V is for. So when you're using this option, it allows you to run multiple operating systems within that isolated container, which is your virtual machine, on the same physical machine that you're working on. You with me?
I believe so.
Okay, so you're running multiple operating systems. So you've got multiple operating systems like could be Unix, Linux, Windows, 2012, 2013, Windows 10, Windows 11, ESXi, whatever operating system, sorry, Linux or Photon based operating system that you have in an isolated container. So when we say an isolated container, it's our virtual machine. So our virtual machine on the same physical machine. So it allows us to install. So here's our laptop, right? And then we're building our
I
machine.
don't, I don't see your, I don't see your share.
You don't see my share. Okay. Okay. Apologize. Apologize then. Sorry about that. Thank you for reminding me. So we talk about Intel VTX. We also talk about, like I said, we are basically running. This will enable for us to run multiple operating systems, right? So here's our here's our laptop, let's say, with an operating system, right? So we have a laptop with, and on top of that operating system is where our hypervisor sits and lives, right? So we have our hypervisor that sits and lives on top of our laptop with an operating system, right? So, for example, for me to build these machine, for me to build these, 3 machines, right? I'm now able to run multiple operating systems and another operating system and another operating system within this container, this container here, these virtual machines, on the same physical machine. So our laptop is our physical machine. Okay, and that's what Intel VTX is. VT-X. With me? Understood?
Yeah, the only question is Intel VTX needs a hypervisor with it, right?
It needs um yes, it needs that software based virtualization solution. So yes, it needs a hypervisor for that, for its own running, to improve on that performance, to give it the capabilities you need in your virtual environment. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
So yes, to answer your question, yeah, it works well. It doesn't need it. It works along. It works alongside. So it works together. Okay. So it works together. Right. Make sense? And think of
Yes.
the and think of um I know that the box, the way I'm drawing here is just a box, right? So I'm gonna denote, I want to denote this box. Okay, is a laptop. So this is our laptop, okay? Okay. So
Got it.
imagine this our laptop, and then how about this? How about I do this instead? How about I got an idea. So why don't I grab this? Hold that. Okay. Paste it here. I'm gonna grab this. So we started off with a laptop, so a physical laptop, right? It's a little bit bigger, right? And then what I can do is put this here on top. So this is what's on top of our laptop. So you have a physical machine, which is your laptop with an operating system, and then on top of that is where your applications and your hypervisors live. So the question is, does it work together? Yeah, it works together or alongside. Um, sorry, alongside. We'll see that it's alongside with software based. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And this will be in our notes. I'll send that over to you guys so you guys have that in our chat. The rest of the crew. All right. Okay. So let's move on. Again, here's a link or a bookmark for you to um, take a look at when you have some time. This will have some information based on Intel, what Intel, and again, the opposite to that is AMD, right? So the opposite to that is the AMD processors as well have that. And again, that what that does is even if you're even so basically even if you're um let's put this in here. Let's make this a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to talk about important requirements because that way this will also be as part of so even if your processor um, supports Intel VT, um, virtualization would only work if these requirements are met. Okay, and one would be your processor, and this also works with Windows 11, right? When you're installing Windows 11, Wayne, on your virtual machine. So if your processor doesn't meet the requirements, then you can't install it, right? So your physical machine or your bare metal machine, your physical is your bare metal machine needs to have the following requirements in order for that to be met. If those are not met, then that's something that you're gonna have to work on to get it met. So you have that processor, and the processor has to have with Intel VT support. That's one. Another thing, especially with Windows 10, 11, and other environments, you have to have the chipset that supports. And these are some good requirements, especially when you're installing these machines on any laptop, right? So knowing what processor you have, and you can Google these things online and say, hey, does my processor meet the Windows 10 or 11 requirement? Or hey, does my processor meet the chipset that I have or processor that I have meet the requirements for my Windows 11 virtual machine setup or my Windows server setup or my ESXi hypervisor software setup, right? Or machine setup. Does that meet the requirements? So this chipset has to support VT, virtualization technology, right? You also have to talk about BIOS, right? Your BIOS is important. Your UEFI, and with Intel VT, and is that enabled, right? Intel VT. And we talked about this in our last class, and subsequent classes, guys. So especially when we're looking at these, and these are some questions that often come up in our chat rooms and in our labs and after class. So it's always good to come to an agreement and a baseline so that we understand what each does and what requirements are, because these are important for your day-to-day routines, right? Especially when people are talking about BIOS or UEFI. Don't just spit out the word. You have to back yourself up with what it means and what it does, because that is important. So especially for new learners out there, understand that, because in your day-to-day routines, when you're going out there for that interview or you're going out there for that meeting, and you're on that project and you're leading that project, make sure you understand those requirements, right? so that you're able to answer it to a CEO, or you're able to answer it to an SME or an architect, right? But again, we're not designing anything. We're not architecting. It's just we need to know what this is, especially when we're designing or implementing specific things. So again, is the BIOS or UEFI with Intel VT enabled? And again, by default, 100% by default, it's often disabled. And I can guarantee, and I showed you, and Wayne, if you open up your virtual machine, any virtual machine, and you right click on it, and you go to settings, and within your settings, you go to the processor, and to the right of the processors, you have your processor device, and then to the right of it you have your summary, the amount of processors that you've added to the machine, and then to the right of that you have your processors, your number of processors, cores per processor, and total processor cores. Below that, you'll see something called virtualization engine. This is where you have your AMDV and RVI enabled, and by default, it's often disabled, right? So this is also important when you're an important requirement, especially if your processor supports Intel VT, especially with Windows 11. A lot of the times, you have an old device, but does it support Windows 11? Does it have that TPM chip? Does that chipset support it? Does the processor support? These are some questions that you're going to have to ask and talk about when you're reviewing these sort of things, right? Another thing you want to talk about is, again, operating system. And I think we talked about this, and this was a question that was asked a lot in the chat. And and operating system and hypervisor software, right? And again, we talked about the different hypervisor software, so you should be comfortable with that, right? Already, right? And does does this support, and can it utilize Intel VT? And this is a question, right? So these are specific requirements that you're going to have to figure out yourself in the real world, right? Um, and lastly, one that I should have mentioned, but I'm leaving it till the end, is the device drivers, right? Because this is also important, guys. Um, and virtualized applications, right? Are these features compatible with VT, right? Which is our virtualization technology. So understand that these are the important features that are there, and I want to stress this out because these questions do come up, right? I get these a lot, and it's good to know that these are what are also very important, especially when you're designing and you're implementing these specific things, right? And make sure these are met beforehand when um, you're designing or implementing or brainstorming, right? Um, We can also check again if the VT is enabled, and I showed you how to do that, Wayne, in the settings of your virtual machine settings. You'll see the specific option where it says virtualization engine, and then you'll have your virtualize Intel VT-X slash EPT or AMDV slash RVI. And again, that's the, sorry, V dash, my apologies, RVI, right? That's the opposite of Intel, which is our AMD processors for that aspect. So, um, if you've got a AMD machine, you're going to use, it's going to enable that AMD machine that you physically have, right? So, back to our picture, right? If our laptop is an Intel, it's going to be an Intel, right? It's going to have that Intel enabled. But if it's an AMD, it's going to note that it's AMD enabled, right? So making sure that you understand that this option works for both sides. So if it's an Intel product or an AMD product, it's still going to work for the same thing, right? A lot of companies do use Intel, and I want to stress Intel because Intel is used everywhere, right? And it's a big product, right? And so is AMD. So just understand there's both there, and you can use both at the same time. What else can we talk about? So yeah, that's about it. For example, here's a question that came up, and you weren't here. This was a question that came up with one of our other students, Mark, who has a ThinkPad Lenovo, and within this virtualization, he noticed that the virtualization technology was on and grayed out, and that his Intel VTD feature was on and grayed out. So again, the differences between the two, right? Understand the differences between the two and what they do and what they don't do, right? Because that'll help you understand whether or not you're able to install a specific application. Okay. In this instance, he was able to install the feature, right? Install the ESXi hardware on his laptop. Once he was able to, um, log in and go to, he was able to enter the BIOS with the script that I gave him because he wasn't able to use the F1 key. So we're able to kind of use a script just by using command prompt. And that script brought him to his BIOS where he was able to tell me whether or not his um, virtualization technology or VTDX feature was enabled or disabled, right? Um, and again, these issues do occur, but just remember that because it's grayed out, it doesn't mean that, you know, it's not going to work, right? So the reason why it's grayed out is because we have the kernel DMA protection enabled, right? So that's what's disabling that feature. And that's totally different and totally off topic, but that feature does resolve the grayed out feature, but it doesn't mean that you should turn it off, right? So just make sure that you're aware that why you're what you're doing and what you're not doing. So as a lab, I got him to, look up the core what is the memory integration option set to, right? So he was able to show me on his laptop and show me what he did. We also noticed too, a lot of these questions came up was the side channel mitigations, Wayne, and I want to talk about that too because um, you know, they're just security measures that are implemented from older vulnerabilities that happened, um, like from firmware, from software, that was meant to reduce the risk of attackers exploiting the CPU vulnerabilities. So, these side channels allow, doesn't mean that you click OK and you're going to get vulnerable. It just shows you, um, you know, if it was enabled versus what it would mean if it was disabled, right? So we're looking at vulnerabilities that happen, we're talking about way before Mac OS 11 and later workstations in Windows hosts with the high virtualization based security enabled. So again, if it's disabled, you're running it, it's enabled. This is where you would find the option. Um, Wayne, I don't know if you see that. You see that in your machine? If you
Um,
open up your machine, your ESXi machine settings, and you click on the, here, let me make an arrow here.
so I don't know if I have
Yeah,
EXXi. I have the VMware workstation.
yeah, VMware Workstation Pro, right? And you see that option there, options tab in the virtual machine settings where my
Oh yeah,
arrow is, right?
yeah, I'm
So
there
I
now.
want you, I want you to go to options and then hit the advanced key. And again, these features are effective for preventing side channel attacks, but you might see performance degradation in some cases. Don't worry about it. This is an on-premises lab. It's a test lab. This is where you can disable this um, message here. This message here, right?
So
Um,
I'm in the advanced right now.
Yeah, you'll see to the right underneath settings, you'll see disable side channel mitigations for Hyper-V enabled hosts. First off, you're not using Hyper-V. You may have Hyper-V enabled in your desktop or laptop, right? Your physical laptop. You might have it enabled. So maybe that's why you're seeing that error. So if you are running a virtual machine with it enabled, right? So if you're running the virtual machine, so if you go to the virtual machine settings and you go to options, you go to advanced, and you look here on the right side where settings is, just below it, the fourth, fifth, sixth option down, you'll see
I
disable
see it.
side mitigations. Do you see that?
I see it.
Yeah. So to disable it, you're changing the side channel mitigation setting in the advanced panel of the virtual machine settings. So here we are, right? We're here. We
So
can
I check
refer
it.
to this. Yeah, no, you don't check it. Again, you're running a virtual machine with side channel mitigations enabled. Like I said, remember what I
Okay,
mentioned
got it.
before.
Got it.
It's root causes for performance degradation. And again, this was likely due to older vulnerabilities, such as Spectre and Meltdown. Doesn't mean that you have a vulnerability. It just means that this is what used to happen before. Now, this option does come out, right? And the order to read the option is you're running a virtual machine. So this virtual machine that you're running, me and you see we were on this machine the other time on last week, and it says with the side channel enabled. Now, is that machine enabled or disabled based on what you're
It's
doing
enabled.
now? It's enabled, right? So that's why you're seeing this error. And side channel mitigations provide enhanced security, right, for these channel attacks, but also lower performance. They're just letting you know, like, hey, you've got it enabled, you're secure now. But if you want to disable it, right, you can change this option, right, here. And this KB VM KB article, this knowledge base article, will tell you how to do it. So what I want you to do is click on do not show this hint again, and then hit OK. Okay. So again, these virtual machines have the side channel enabled while running on these versions, right? Which is sort of what you have right now, right? So just make sure that you know that it's enabled, right? So that's what it's telling you to do. Now, what I want you to do is a lot of these questions do come up like, hey, what is this? What's this do? To resolve this issue is I want you to, if there's a performance degradation for that machine, for example, you have a performance issue, then yeah, they're saying, hey, disable it until you figure out what the performance degradation is. You walk over to the data center, you walk over to your virtual machine settings, and you give it more RAM, you give it more CPU, whatever it takes to fix this problem, right? So you're going to walk over to the data center in real life environment, or you're going to walk over to your branch location where your servers are, right? And you're going to look at that and you're going to say, oh, I can give this machine, an extra CPU, or I can give this machine extra RAM, right? And this will help with that issue. You with me?
Uh, I
Is
believe
that
so.
you understand? Okay, so the only reason why we're talking about this is because this is important. And again, these pop-ups do occur. So what I recommend is keep that enabled the way it is, and click on the do not show this hint again. I want you to be aware of what the side channel mitigations is because this will come up a lot in production environments as well too, and these will be questions that'll come up again. These attacks allow for unauthorized read access by malicious processors or virtual machines to the contents of protected kernel or host memory. So again, these CPU vendors have introduced these sort of features and vulnerabilities and fixes for these against these classes of attacks, such as branch prediction barriers. And this is stuff that actually happened. Single thread indirect branch predictor modes. indirect branch restriction speculation modes, L1 data cache flushing. And this is what vulnerabilities came up when we looked at the specific things. So um, again, what I recommend is, you're enhancing the security, but you're just lowering the performance, right? So you're not really disabling it. So what I want you to do is I want you to click on do not show this hint again. So every time you power on your machine, this won't show up.
So how do you get to that point again? Let me make
This will
my.
come up. This will come up once you power it on. And this came up a few times in the video, right? So
Okay, got it.
making sure that you read what the error says, right? And follow the instructions and do a little bit of research, sort of what we're doing here today, gives you the idea and says, okay, just do not show this again. I am running it. I am being secure. I've read a little bit about it. I've done my research. I'm going to lower performance. That's because I have an 8 GB laptop, right? But at the end of the day, Wayne, you're going to go to the data center. You're going to walk over to the data center, right? You just need to walk over to the data center, right? Let's say this is you, Wayne, right? You're going to walk over, and then this is your machine here, right? You're going to walk over to the data center and you're going to say, oh, my performance is down, or oh, I see some lights blinking. There's an issue here. Oh, I figured the error out. Oh, there's an error, and it says that I'm low on CPU and memory. So now this is where you're gonna walk over there and you're gonna fix that problem. Understand?
I get it.
Right? You're going to take that server down. You're going to make everybody aware that you're going to take that server down, and you're going to make sure that you're going to resolve that issue at a specific time and date, and make sure that everybody's aware of the steps that are being taken and what your management. You got to get the approvals first. Obviously, you're going to go through your different channels to get the approval. Right? You're going to go through the we call it you know your approvals. We have to get the ITL, the ITIL approvals. Right? You're going to have to basically or what's it called? Uh, oh my gosh. You're gonna have to get the approvals from the specific people. I don't remember. There's a specific title an employee that you would go to, and that person there, or he or she would go with go through you, like you through her or him, to get the appropriate approvals and appropriate timelines to get that resolved, right? So whatever timelines are involved, right? So there's a specific timeline. So for example, in this case, between the times of, let's say, 7 p.m. To 12 a.m. On Tuesdays would be the only time we can visit the data center, right? Right? Um, then we'd also look at, is this issue mission critical? Right? So how critical that is, right? So you got to make sure if this issue is mission critical. How many users are affected? Many users, many users are or clients are affected, right? VMs with, like, for example, a HR application or financial, oh, right? So example, i.e., HR application or financial application, right? Uh, so again, make sure that you understand, like, your timelines, understand your times that you can work on the specific issues, right? Can this be done overnight? Can we automate this? These are specific things that we can also look into, right? Automation. Um, you know, how many people are affected, right? Are these virtual machines or physical servers on all the time, right? So these are some questions that, you're going to have to um, raise, right? When we're looking into these specific things, right? Um, so that's that. Again, I apologize. There is a title of a person is in the workplace that typically um, does this for us or helps manage this for the engineers and for um, the level one, level two techs and service desk, right? And again, they'll take care of that kind of stuff, but it's also good to understand that when you're talking to somebody like a project manager or something, so that you're aware of that, especially in a new project, right? There's some common uh like there's some hardware level fixes like in newer CPUs. There's some firmware updates and micro codes that you can do, Wayne, that are updated in Intel and AMD. And then that you can help modify how your CPU handles limit, or sorry, execution to limit these specific side channels. But again, you're not a security guy, you don't need to do that, but it's good to know, um, you know, how we can check these things as techs, right? That are if nobody's going to tell us, might as well learn it ourselves, right? Do it ourselves if we have the possibility to do it. So on Windows, we can use PowerShell um, to ensure that you know um, we can check to see if there's any of these vulnerabilities or mitigations that are active on these machines. And there's some examples, and even on Linux and Windows machines. So there's some examples that I can show you guys later on. I can add in the notes, or send you some links that you guys can read up on that can help you check to see whether or not there's some mitigations or vulnerabilities on your on your system. And again, you have to kind of install a module, right? So you would install, it's called a speculation control module. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. They call it a speculation control. And um, again, if it's coming from an untrusted repository, you have to make sure that you're enabling it, right? But again, you can import it from PowerShell, and then you can run the check, right? So it's called speculation control, and that's something you may want to look at if you want to take a look at that. And this can be done on both. And again, you're looking for the specific outputs, like is there BTI enabled, or is it true, or it's something to the lines of that. It's nothing where you know you're not getting a lot of information. You're just sort of getting like a list, Wayne and everybody else, and then that'll give us is the hardware present. Is the support present? Is the hardware mitigated? Is that true or false? Is there a meltdown? Is that true or false, right? So, for example, if it's true and your mitigation is enabled, then that means you're protected. If it's false, your mitigation is not active. With me?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's called speculation control. And this is based on PowerShell. I think I used this a couple times, but this is a good test. This is just for testing and educational, right? Um, so these are some, and this can be done on both Linux and Windows, right? So you can do this on both Linux and Windows. And again, you're looking like these are the things that you'd be looking for. Like for example, you would say which mitigations are in place, right? Or is there, or if there are any vulnerabilities that are still vulnerable. Okay. Um, and again, you're looking for the outputs, right? And again, when you're looking at these lines, you're looking for, are you protected? True. If not, then it's not active, right? So it's sort of like a true or false type of thing, and that'll help you figure out whether or not um you have this information for Spectre and Meltdown vulnerabilities, right? So again, this is tailored for both. This would be tailored for both Linux and Windows. Okay. Any questions?
No, I'm good.
Good. All right, we're on the same page. Okay. So again, your goal is to do not show this host again. First, to see whether or not your side mitigations are enabled. But again, this is meant for Hyper-V enabled hosts. So if you want to disable that for some specific reason, then you disable it here. The pop-up does tell you, hey, you're running your virtual machine, your ESXi machine, which is your Windows Server 2019 is running a virtual machine with side channel mitigations enabled. So if you go to the settings, right, you walk over to the settings in the options and you see that it should be checked. So that helps. And again, it provides enhanced security, but it lowers performance. Now, again, if it lowers performance, like I said, we walk over to the data center and we fix our performance issues. And I'm going to put this in the chat. So those are some questions that had come up to me in our YouTube videos, and these are some questions that I get asked a lot through the last couple of weeks. So I'm gonna call this you know uh, I'll do this. I'll just say, so I'll spend half an hour at most now, and the next, let's say an hour, 45 minutes to answer some of these questions. I can set up another day where I'm just answering questions, but I also want to make, aware anybody watching this video and watching the one-to-one with me, along with me, that you're able to ask questions, and every question that's asked is merited, and we will talk about it in the next class. So again, important requirements. We talked about the different BIOS setups and the different labs that I want you guys to check on your environments, right? Each environment is different, but I want to see what the memory integration option is set to, because that does help fix this issue of graying out. Doesn't mean that you have to disable it or worry about why it's grayed out, but again, to isolate that issue, you need to be aware of what this does, what the kernel DMA protection is for, and why it's on, and why these subsequent options are grayed out. So moving on, Wayne, I'm going to get you to share your screen. I want to review our virtual machines together, and I'm going to, if I can get you to, Wayne, if you could share your screen with me. All right. So, can you see that? Can everybody see that? You guys see my screen?
I don't see anything. I shared my screen. Do you see mine?
Yeah, I do. No, but do you see your screen?
I don't.
Okay, so if you type in Windows, if you open your Microsoft Teams app, you
Yeah, it's
should.
open. I don't see your screen. I just see your initials.
Okay. Do you see? Okay. So am I sharing my screen? No. So I will be sharing my screen. All right. So do you see my screen?
I do.
Okay. So, all right. So do you see the side channel mitigations that we just talked about?
I
And
do.
you, okay. All
Yep.
right. So let's review our virtual machines together, Wayne. So I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna get you to share now. This will all be recorded. So I'm gonna stop sharing and then I'm gonna get you to share. You can share your screen. Awesome. Perfect. So when we go through the transitioning between sharing screen, you'll see our pop-up um, icon. So when you do see that, it's because we stop sharing our screens. But as soon as somebody shares our screen, you should be able to see the window. In this instance, I'm gonna now take control. So I'm gonna request control, and we're gonna talk about um, some of the questions that you've had today when you created these two machines. Am I able to? Okay. All right. So here's 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 our machine, our two machines that we had, and again we gave it 2.3, but we said we were going to give it two. Remember, you wanna make sure that when you're installing the operating system, you want to give it as much as you can. So even giving it 4 GB would be good, right? So I'm just going to increase it to 4 GB. So what I need to know is if I get a calculator. Remember, 1 GB is equal to 1024 megabytes, right? So what I want to do is I want to know how many megabytes are in 4 GB. So for every gigabyte, we have 1024 megabytes, right? So I need to know how many we need for four. So what I'm going to do is go and multiply the number of megabytes times the number of gigs that I want, right? And I'm going to hit enter, and that'll give us our total. So in this, I lost control.
Um, Stop sharing. So I'll share
Yeah,
again.
yeah, if you don't mind. All right. I think that stopped sharing. So try to minimize the calculator. Okay, so I'm going to take control again. Wayne? Okay, perfect. Yeah, see, can you minimize the calculator for me? Again, or just share your screen for now and then minimize the calculator.
Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of an app that's Microsoft Word. I'm gonna get rid of that.
Yeah, just close that, put that to the side. Uh, or even close it because we don't need it.
Uh, right, just 1 second. I gotta close one document. And then I'll close Word. That'll help us out a little bit.
All right, let me know when you're sharing your screen. All right, let me know when you're sharing your screen.
Okay, sounds like a winner. I will do that. Share. All right, I have it shared.
All right, so I'm going to take control, back control. Yeah, close that.
Let me let you have control here.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. All right, so like I said, just remember again, you know, the what we talked about in the calculator, right? So 4 gigabytes times 1024. So every gigabyte. So even if I click on, so for example, if I click on that and I click on the 4, should be able to, there you go. So even if I click on the 4, it should give me the total. But a lot of people saying, okay, well, how do we know that's 4 GB, right? Why is it megabytes? Why are we not able? This is all by design. Now, in order to get this number, every gigabyte, right? Every gigabyte, not megabytes, but every gigabyte is equal to 1024 megabytes. So if I want an 8 gig virtual machine, I click on that and it gives me 8,192 megabytes. So if you put that in a calculator and then you want to know how they get the number, what you do is you get 1024 times the amount of gigabytes that you need, and that'll give you your 8192. If you want 16,384 megabytes. If you want 32,076. 128, 131,072. So divide this number by 1020 or multiply this number by 1024, and this will give you the number there. I typically give it 1 up, right? I always do that. That's just because, just for memory swapping, just for memory contents, have that extra field just in case. Um, this will help with long-term. Um, uh, it's just an architectural design that I prefer. I just go 1 up or by even number, right? Or 2 up. Um, that way I have that extra megabyte just in case, right? Um, so in this virtual machine, we gave it 2 GB. And again, I think we talked about 4 GB, but we can still run our virtual machines on 2 GB once we have our operating system involved. So what would happen is we would create our machine with 4 GB, right? So I'm going to change that. And I'm going to give this machine, again, based on the licensing for Windows, I'm going to give this machine 2 processors and 1 core per processor for this one. Sorry, 1 core, right? And 4 cores per processor. Just remember the licensing with Windows Server and the licensing with ESXi is a little bit different. In an in production environment, you're using an evaluation copy, so it doesn't really matter what you're doing. But in a real environment, you are going to the store and you're purchasing, you're going to the marketplace and you're purchasing those CAL licenses. Um, and so how so there is a licensing calculator for Windows Server, and I can send you guys a link on the licensing calculator if you guys are using that. So let's see if I can take this link here. It's just one example. There's other ones. I have to do some more research to see which ones are out there, but this is one that's pretty good so far. Again, this is not Azure based, so this is not Azure. This is totally different from what Azure's calculator and pricing calculators are. Just remember what we do in the cloud is totally different. Um, so I'm going to post this in our chat. Right. Post this in our chat and just let me know if you got it. Then we'll go
Got
to
it.
our teams. You got it? Okay, good. All right. All right. So again, this all works on the licensing per CPU, right? So in a physical or bare metal machine, right? So you have your Windows Apologize there. So again, when you talk about licensing, it's called a core base model Windows. What that means, Wayne, and everybody watching, um, means that the licenses are required for each physical core on the server, right? So, say for example, I have a minimum of 8 core licenses that are needed per processor, and a minimum of 16 core licenses per server, regardless of whatever the number of actual cores are. So the core licenses for Microsoft and Windows, I don't know if they changed or not. They're sold in packs of 2 or 16. Okay, you with me?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna put that here, and this is what I'm gonna send you a link. It's a PDF actually. Um, this PDF is pretty good. It's got like some information that you can definitely read up on, and I'll post this in our notes for licensing. Okay, and this is some of my old notes here. So again, so it uses a core-based model, right? So that's which means that the licenses are required for the physical core, right, on the server. Okay, so every license that you get, right, per processor, you need a minimum of 8 core licenses, right? And for every server you use is a minimum of 16. So regardless of the number of actual cores you actually have on the machine, right? So these core licenses are sold in packs of 2 or 16, right? So I'm going to send you a PDF in our WhatsApp, and or see if I can send you the link instead. And I'll get you to download the PDF instead. It's from Microsoft downloads page. Um, and then we'll have you open that for us here so I can review that with you quickly. And so I'll put that in the chat right now. Enter. And then this is your chat. Can you open that PDF for me or that link? I think they opened it here. Yeah, so there you go. So again, it bridges our on-premises environments with Azure again, right? We enable these hybrid scenarios. We know what hybrid means, right? You're in both scenarios on premises and in the cloud. Um, when we look at the licensing costs, right, it works on a CAU, a CAL requirement, which is what I talked about. And again, these are the prices based on the specific editions that you're using. So, for example, if we were to use the Server 2019 data center, our prices would be right based on the right need, size, and virtualization requirement, right? So we would purchase that for that, and then that would come in packs of 2 or 16. Our minimum license requirement, like I stated already, right, is all physical cores have to be licensed. Okay. And here's a good chart that I want you to. This is actually a good chart right here. This is what I wanted to show you. So when we're talking about physical cores per processor, right? We have our 2 physical cores per processor up to 16, right? So number of 2 core packs needed, we would need 8, right? And we'd have to purchase these, right? Based on the diagram here, right? Um, Again, you could talk to a Microsoft vendor if you want, but again, good to know this prior before pulling out the, getting the right information and then um, getting the huddle for that so that you know what to ask and the different questions that we can ask our vendors when we are doing or purchasing these specific types of machines. So this is actually for you to read. I recommend you keep this as like this is actually a pretty good scenario for Microsoft. I would keep this with me and sort of like a handbook, and I'll post that in the notes too as well our minimum requirements too, right? So this is important for you. Um, to note. Okay, so with that moving forward, again, it doesn't matter how many cores per processor. Just remember the higher intents of the applications are, um, the more cores per processor you're going to add, right? You understand what I'm talking about? Um, you with me?
I don't have a question. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, Tom. Perfect. So we also created on our last one, we created two virtual disks. This is a server. I gave it 500 GB. I'm also going to create another one. I'm going to create another hard disk and I'm going to give it a terabyte. Let's say, for example, and it's got a 1024. Again, just remember, your machine may not have a terabyte, but um, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's just a placeholder. Recommended size for that is 60 GB. So it needs 60 GB for Windows Server 2019. Just remember that if you're trying to save space in this environment, right? So I'm going to, again, use the split virtual disk into multiple files, which makes it obviously easier for you to move those virtual machine files from one computer to another, right? When we're moving it from your physical laptop's hard drive, your SSD, uh, to your USB. We're not going to browse the location. We're just going to hit finish because we know where our configuration files are located, right? And I'm going to give it a custom. Well, in order for the two machines to communicate, and we'll talk about this in a later class, we need to ensure that the custom VMnet is on for both machines to talk to each other. They need to be on both the same VMnet, or VLAN, in order for um, your machines to talk to each other. And I'm also adding that so that I can download applications and apps and whatnot, and then just disable it and when I don't need it, right? So it's just a secondary NAT. It'll act as it'll be highly available, and it'll.
Question right here.
Yeah, tell me.
So the VNet 8, that's so
VNet 8
machines
is.
on let me finish it. So the VNet 8 is a local LAN, so different virtual machines can talk to each other.
Yes.
Okay.
So remember, VMnet 8, right? So when we're adding, right? Okay, so let's go to the adapter here. Let me go to the adapter.
But that was good for me. That was good for me.
Answers your question. Okay, good. So remember, it's Workstation Pro, our hypervisor 2, automatically says by design that VMnet 8 should be net, which means VMnet 8 is on a VLAN, which also gives us that address translation, which also gives us that internet connection in our local private LAN, right? So it'll give us that internet connection based on their code, right? So whatever code, Photon or whatever code they use inside, and it'll give us that NAT. We also talked about VMnet 1, which is host only. That'll give us our WAN, our wide area, which is our local IP, right? So we can connect to these machines using our IP. And this actually, We can use this in other classes when we talk about. I'm working on an Azure uh, Radius VPN. So I'm installing Radius and remote access roles in our server machines. And I'm able to have a client connect, right, without an IP, connect to my VPN to connect to my on-premises environment. So I can get you to log in to my on-premises environment on my network through a VPN, which is installed on your laptop. So your laptop isn't part of the domain, but you're able to log into our VPN and use and utilize our domain controllers or our servers that we are our RAS servers or radio access servers or our radius servers based on the design that I give, right? I designed. So that's something where we can use VMNet 1, where we can connect or have users connect to our WAN, right? Using that network or VLAN.
Question.
Yes.
So I understood that last point you about the WAN piece. When I look at VNet 8, which is NAT,
NAT.
but to see the two network adapters I have there, I created that network adapter 2, I believe. I think I created that. That says NAT. If you look on the left, yeah, I have that network adapter 2 is a NAT, and VNet 8 is NAT. So I'm a little confused. Are they the same? One and the same?
So remember something. We're creating a template of this machine. So we're creating this machine so that if we need to build other servers for other reasons, this will act as our automated VM. The reason why I gave 2 virtual machines, 2 adapters, is by design.
So I guess my question is, are they the same?
They are not the same. Yeah, they are not the same. They're not the same. One is in a VLAN that gives NAT, and the other one is just a NAT. That's used to share the host IP address. So we're specifying a virtual network in one of them that gives you internet, right? Which is separate, which is sort of like a virtual, right?
LAN. Which one is that? The network adapter 1 or 2?
1.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, 1. One is a virtual LAN that gives you internet, and then adapter 2 just gives you internet based on you logging into Workstation Pro and you being able to open this machine and you being able to log into the operating system with your local administrator account and you being able to open Microsoft Edge and you being able to type in www.google.com and resolve that DNS.
You see what a confusion is?
No confusion. You see
what the confusion I was relaying. The confusion I was relaying is adapter 2 says NAT, but VNet 8, when you go down, when you did that custom thing, it designated adapter 1 as NAT as well.
Yeah.
But are you saying they're 2 separate NATs for 2 different purposes?
Yeah, it'll be.
So that's what the confusion is, because they both say NAT.
2 different purposes.
Right,
2 different purposes. Yeah. And again, this is all by design, right? For 2 different purposes. They're 2 separate things, right? You're specifying virtual networks, whereas NAT you're sharing the host IP address. So you're getting a DHCP based on what your IP is, right? So there's 2 different things.
If you don't mind, just relaying what you just said, I think that's exactly what I need to get. If you don't mind.
NAT is used to share your host IP address, whereas custom virtual network or VLAN 8 gives you internet, but it's there to specify the virtual network. It'll give you internet, and again, we'll log in and I'll show you. It's better to visualize it, right? That way you have a better understanding. And again, I talked about what this all does, and it's in our notes, right?
Okay.
It's in our day one notes. I explained everything in our day one notes. But again, we'll see. Like I said, this could be a NAT. Doesn't matter. We're just depicting an example, right? This is an example. We can give NAT for now, right? I'm not going to explain virtual NAT just yet because I don't want to confuse them right now, the two. But when we need two machines to communicate, we're not going to use VMNet 8. Like we can just give everything a virtual network. It doesn't matter what we give it. I can give it NAT or VMNet, VMNet 8, VMNet 8. Doesn't matter what I give it. At this point, it's if I give it NAT, right? I'm not virtualizing it. I'm giving somebody access to the internet, right? Where I'm using, it's used to share the host IP address. So whoever the host is, you're getting that IP address. So whoever's hosting it is the IP address that you're going to get. And that's what NAT is for. We're going to share that IP address from the host.
But
You'll get,
it's translating it, right? It's
yeah,
translating
you're
it from
translating. That's correct. That's correct. Yeah,
right.
translating. Yeah, that's right. Again, it doesn't have the colon like you think because there's different types. There's PAT. There's different types of NATs. And let me see if I could pull up something on NAT for you. Here, give me a sec.
I understand. I mean, I'm good for this because I know I know you want to do some other things, so I'm good
Yeah.
on that.
No. I want to make sure that we got it. There's different types of NAT, right? There's the 4 different types of NATs, right? So we have our static NAT, and then we have our dynamic NAT. So we have our static NAT, which is VMNet 8, right? And then we have our dynamic, which is just NAT, where it just gives you an IP. Then there's NAT overload, and then there's port address translation. Okay. Any questions?
I'm beating on that.
Just remember, both servers need to talk to each other. The IPs are the same. Subnets need to be the same or close, like overlapping. Again, if you have 2 servers, again, server 2 has not the NAT IP address that's permanent. So that server 1 can traditionally talk to server 2 through a NAT IP. And this is called a 1-to-1 NAT or a static NAT.
Now they're on the same subnet, you said. So if they're on the same subnet, they're on their own. What is that? The 1918 address space? Do they need a NAT?
Yeah, you'll probably get if your address starts with 192.168.x.x.x, you'll probably get the 192.16x.x address when you do an IP config, right? You get what I'm saying? So remember, there's a little bit of a difference, and I'll put this in the notes for you guys again, the different types of NATs, but and what the difference between the custom NATs. So one could be static and one could be dynamic, right? So right now we're using dynamic. We're dynamically assigning IP addresses. We're not giving it a static IP, right? We're not changing the second. Look. Right. So we're not basically changing the IP address. For example, here, DHCP is, right? And static IP. Wayne, can you click on that for me?
I'm familiar with those concepts, yeah.
So we will, when we get to the point, when we get to the point of marrying the 2 machines, like your ESXi with your Windows Server machine, we'll talk about static and dynamic a lot, okay? So that'll come up in that topic. So the IP address right now is automatically assigned. I can guarantee you. If I can click on it, I can't. Can you click on that for me?
On what? Okay.
Yeah. The internet protocol.
My bad.
Oh, it's okay. So if I click on IPv4, TCP IPv4, TCP IPv4 properties, right now they're dynamic, right? So you're obtaining it, so it's using DHCP. In static NAT, which is our VMNet, we're going to give it a IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, preferred DNS. Okay? With me? Does
Um,
that help answer your question?
well, I know that static IP is, but I guess static IP and static NAT are two different things. But I was just wondering if they're on the same subnet, do they need to be NATed? But that was kind of the thing I was trying to sort out in my brain. But
No, no, they don't.
okay,
Remember what we said. Devices on the same subnet communicate with each other. So you don't need NAT.
got it. Okay, that makes sense.
I'm just gonna write something out for you guys here, okay? All right. So remember, no, devices on the same subnet do not need to be on that. Right? Just remember devices on the same subnet, similar to VLAN, it's the same thing. If it's not on the same VLAN, they're not going to communicate with each other. So to answer your question, subnets and VLANs are similar in the way they do the same thing. So if the device is not on the same subnet, obviously it can't communicate. If it's on a -16 and one is on a -12, they're not going to communicate with each other because it's on a different uh now we're talking about networking and IP addresses like class A, class B, class C, right? So if you have a subnet that's 10.0.0.0-8, if both machines are not on the same, one's on 11 and one is on 10, they're not going to communicate with each other, right? And then not again, we're using it, you're using it for private networks, right? So when we have to talk to the outside world, this is all code, it's all software. That's how that works, right? Like for example, if we need to talk within our local environment, Wayne, if we need to talk, and I talked about this before too, if we need to talk between our DC, our domain controller, and our other domain controller, then they both need to be on the same virtual network or VMnet. You can't have them both on NAT. They won't work. Even if you try to ping it, they won't work. It won't resolve. It won't resolve your DNS, right? So again, yeah, they basically um, it's used for a private network. So we're using a private network, and that's why we have NAT. When we created our two um, machines, I just need internet to download, right? So this is a template machine. I need something to download. There's no operating system yet. Once we have an operating system, again, we have our two NAT cards for high availability and fault tolerance. So if one of the network cards go down, we have another network card that's up and available. So the active network adapter becomes the passive network. The passive network adapter becomes the active one. So we have that second active adapter that'll work, right? Um, this is a template. So right now we're not mirroring this machine with anything. We're not telling it to communicate with anything. Um, it's just a machine that we built. It needs internet for now. When we log into our operating system, or when we log in uh, through our Azure accounts. Like for example, we have an Azure account, and the client needs to log in with his or her Azure AD account. Then it needs internet to communicate, right? To install to communicate with that account. So if you don't have internet, then it won't work.
Okay. That's how you got to have your network together. Got
Yeah,
it.
you gotta have your networks together, right? And again, this all comes down to networking 101. You gotta know your IPs, you gotta know your static and private. And again, that's up to you. I taught this stuff already. It's all in documentation. It's there for you to use, right? High availability. Remember, always high availability. Highly available, right? Just like, you need two highly available routers in a data center. If one of the available data routers go down, you have the other available, running that path, right? Whatever OSPF path is. So just make sure that you know why I'm doing that. Um, we could have used host only, right? For WAN, so we can communicate with our outside network, but we didn't need it. We just want it to be private. All right, so cancel. I guess I can't. I'm gonna take control again here. Need you to cancel for now. Close. And this is gonna run your iOS right now. So we're gonna run our iOS quickly, and we're gonna get this to install. So I'll close, and then I'm gonna load the iOS and ensure that this is powered on, right? And we're going to look for our iOS is our D drive, right? So we said it's in our D drive, right? So we're going to Windows Server 2019. And again, you can download Windows 2022 as well too, and do this for Windows 2022 as version, right? I would even go far as creating another machine with Windows 2022, right? So again, we're installing this, we're opening it, and we've now loaded it. We virtually loaded our ISO in our settings, so our fictitious settings here, and we're gonna click OK. There's nothing else that we need to do. Right? We're not virtualizing Intel VT. Did you make the change on your BIOS? Were you able to? I think we had that problem before, but did you end up taking a picture of the BIOS?
I don't know if I took a picture of the BIOS.
Your BIOS, yeah. And what laptop do you have? Like, okay, so what laptop do you have?
I have an HP.
And so a hypervisor, what's it say?
By the way, I ordered a 16 gig RAM card. It should be here hopefully in the next day or so.
You're
I'm
gonna
gonna upgrade
install.
from
Is
I'm
it?
gonna upgrade from 8 to 16 RAM gigs of RAM.
Oh, wicked, awesome, man. I appreciate. Cool. You'll see a big difference here. You can create so many more. Like I would even go as far as 32. It all depends on if your motherboard allows you to um go that far. Like I would
Yeah,
go up
look
to
at the specs. It
32.
says it can go up to 32, but I just went ahead and did the 16.
Your laptop, eh? Okay, gotcha. Um, I'm just going to use this for something here. I need this for a second here. But there's some other information that I want you to, um, I'm gonna need this for another something else. I don't know, it's okay. All right, so what I would recommend is, okay, so you have an HP laptop, right? We're talking, you have an Intel core, you have 10 core logical processors. If we go to Task Manager, we open up your Task Manager, we go to Performance. Um, oh, click on performance. What happened? Can you click on performance for me? See, right now you're throttling high, eh? You got 92%. So it may slow down, it may not slow down, but again, like when you can't run two machines, until you have that utilization, right? We talked about. Can you click on performance for me? It won't allow me.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not able. All right. So if we make this a little bit bigger, am I able to do that? Let me see if okay. So if you scroll down, you see where it says sockets? So that's how many sockets your laptop has. That's how many cores your laptop has, and that's how many and this is whether or not virtualization is enabled or not. So this will help you answer a lot of the questions, right? When you're looking into these specific things that we're talking about. So if you want to know how many cores your laptop has, how many sockets your laptop has, and how many logical processors your laptop has, this is where you would look. And what that does is I think they take the information from here, from the system information. Can you click on that bottom? Let me try to stop control. Let's take control again. Just remember, it's your CPU's amazing, right? The more virtual machines you add, the more you're going to see your CPU jump, right? Uh, am I able to click on this? No. What happened? Let me try again. Can you minimize the task manager for me?
Sure. I guess I can close this, right?
Yeah, we can close that too. But again, this is the differences. I wanted to show you where you get that information for your specific laptop when we talked about cores per processor, right? Or sockets, right? Which is sockets, right? So this is where you get that information from. So think of your laptop as your server, right? So when you want it, I did not get control.
I have one quick question for you. This other machine here, I tried to make yesterday.
Mhm.
I know you wanted me to have two of them. Would it make sense to make sure that one's up to snuff
Yeah,
too?
so what we'll do is you'll mirror this exact same settings,
Okay,
and
I
then
tried my best
and
to. Yeah,
and then
yeah.
install Windows Server 2022.
Well, because I thought we wanted two 2019s to match each, but I guess if you want,
Yeah, yeah, we can again, like I said, it doesn't matter what operating system you have. I'm just going based on timeline. So 19, we're looking at 7 years, right? So the server has been around for 7 years. It may
I
go out of
think
style later, but again, you're learning. You can still learn how to use the 2019, right? But
right.
I would go 2022 or 2025 in a production environment now. Like if you were in 2012, then you would have to like 2020. Sorry,
Yeah.
Windows Server 2012 stopped support unless you bought ESU extended support, right, for that server. So it would stop the support and companies would migrate over to 2019 and 2016 as well too. They're now going to stop my support, right, for updates on 2019, and you'd have to migrate now to 2022 or 2025, right? So again, I'm going low based because if you want to
Okay.
migrate, if you want to build another DC and you want to migrate to 2022, then I always go one less, right? So if you want to learn how to migrate in later on videos when you're on your own, then you can migrate your second VM to 2022. And there are videos out there that can show you how to migrate. Um, how to migrate those servers, right? From one server to another, from 2019 or 2016 to 2022 or 2019 to
Okay.
2025. But that's why I kind of went one down with you, right? So that's sort of my
I
my
think I
my.
lost the share requests, by the way.
Let me try again. Again, I recommend trying this on your own for testing, and then bringing it up to the class if you want. It's up to you. I want you guys to be as interactive as possible. Ask questions. I love it. You know, But if you want to try other things, please feel free. If you want to go ahead and do things now that you feel comfortable, please go ahead. That way we can move on and move forward with other topics for sure, for sure. But like I said, always go one down, right? Just in case you want to migrate. Or for high availability, right? You want 2 DCs, right? In one area or one location. So for example, okay, so we have our software. We're now going to power it on. So I'm going to click on the power virtual machine. Let me. Okay. So I'm going to have you do that for me. Can you power on this virtual machine for me?
Do
Right.
I need to click
Remember
it?
that?
I need to click
No.
inside the
Oh,
lines.
don't click till I say. Okay. So remember what we talked about in our earlier slide. Um, we talked about so we talked about do not show this hit again so that we don't see this hit again. But again, read it, refer to the article for more detail, understand why it's running, how to disable it, when to disable it, when not to disable it, how to check if it needs it, using the PowerShell command like I showed you, and why it's there, right? And the requirements that are needed for that. So hit OK. It doesn't give you a low performance,
Do I
but
need to
like I
click
said,
inside the lines?
yes, to click inside the black area, yeah, and then boot from CD DVD. Right? You're hitting Control Alt to return to your computer, and then Control G or click inside to get your cursor inside. So Control G or double or click inside the machine to um, have access to your cursor. Now, at the top, there's a toolbar. There's File, Edit, View, VM, Tabs, Help, etc., etc. The 3 boxes with the arrow going down, that's just your Control Alt Delete, right? That's your Control Alt Delete.
This right here. The 3 boxes with the
At the top there, where my computer is, above my computer, a tab on the right
okay.
pane. Yeah, above that,
Got
above it, there's 3 boxes with an arrow. So those are different. That one there. So that sends the Control Alt Delete. If you hover over it as well too, Wayne, you want to hover that, yeah. This will send the Control Alt Delete to the virtual machine.
okay.
Right? So that'll allow you to sign in. And then Control Alt. So Control G is to direct the input to the VM.
Okay. So do I need to go and password in?
Yeah, put your password in. We created that super memorable password. It doesn't matter what the password is. I typically create class passwords so that it's all similar and I have access to it in case I need to log in on the spot. But again, it's up to you. It's yours. It's local. This is our data center, basically. So we've now created our first virtual machine in our data center. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you're now
Super
logging
Friday.
in. Yeah, yeah. And again, you're going to create another one after for high availability. This is just for practice, right? Um, so try managing servers with Windows Admin Center. Again, this is just different familiarities features in one browser-based app. Just click on do not show this message again, and then ignore that and click on the X button. So welcome to your first Windows Server 2019 on your laptop. So you own this. It's physically your server on a data center that you created. And in your data center, have you used this before, Wayne? You said you come from a high background with IT. Have you ever used this before?
I mean, a little bit. I have a little bit. I've used servers before. Yeah.
What would you rate yourself? What would you rate yourself from a scale of 1 to 10?
For being I've never been an operational SA, so
Okay.
I know enough to get around. But it takes them from
What
refamiliarization
would
to
you,
figure out stuff.
so one being the lowest and 110 being the highest, what would you rate yourself?
Uh, Probably 5 or 6.
5 or 6 out of 10. Okay. Um, are you able to move around yourself and show and explain to somebody who's not IT related what this is and what this isn't?
Well, it's a server, and this is the
Server
uh,
manager.
dashboard to actually control what's and see what's going on with your server.
Okay. Okay. Fair
Um,
enough. Fair enough.
yeah,
Fair enough. No problem. So, I, what I want to try to uh, get control now. If you can add control first, if you can give me the control, that
I
would be
just
great.
pressed it, and it must have knocked out.
Let's see if I'm there. See, yeah, there we go. Okay, so here's your server manager. Oh, I see. I can't click anything. It won't let me. Okay. Um, anyway, so you'll have to see my mouse right now. So this is our server manager right now. This is our dashboard. So in our dashboard, we can configure our roles and features. We can add other servers to manage. We can create our server groups, and we can connect this server to the cloud services with Azure Arc or migration to migrate over. We can actually do it within here. If you scroll down a little bit, those are the rules and server groups that you see or that are on the left that are installed by default. So we have our file and storage manager services, and we also have our local server, right? And that'll give us sort of our roles and our checklist to see if we have any issues or events, performance problems, BTA results, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So usually these cards, you'll see the specific events. If you click on that event there, event one, right here, where it says local server, where my mouse is, Wayne, you can move your mouse over to the events. Yeah. So this is where our services are. So you can kind of see what services are running, right? Once you're enabled and you're optional. Click on events. I think you were clicking on services. Yeah, there you go. So if you look at the bottom there, if you scroll down a little bit, scroll down, you'll see all the events, right? So our server name is just given one by default. Again, we're going to change our server name to the nomenclature that I gave you. Do you remember the nomenclature? So this is where all the errors and warnings would come in, right? You can actually read up on these, right? And some of these do get fixed when you update them. So eventually you can update them and you should be able to fix them
Question.
once they're updated. Yeah.
So the names here, and we see that within our VMware workstation, we named the virtual machine, or we're naming the
The
server on the
file
virtual machine.
we name the file. We name the file. So that we're naming the file. Our nomenclature is what you see OSU Ubuntu Server 1. So if you scroll a little, and I'm going to get to the server name now because this is all done by default. If you scroll up now, if you go a little bit up here, where's my mouse is? Scroll up. Okay, I'll scroll up. And then, okay, you see where it says computer name? This is where we're going to change our computer name. So I want you to click on Win HUK and we're going to rename it. There is a run command, right? It's called sysdms.cpl, right? So if you run this command from your start menu within the server itself, so you'd have to minimize the server manager and get on the VM itself, not the laptop. So if you minimize this, minimize it,
Right here.
yeah, minimize it, yeah. And scroll down here where my mouse is here. If you could scroll down, you go to the start menu. And I'm gonna fix the problem. I'm gonna show you guys how to fix the problem so that it centers the so if you go to start, right click on start right here, the start menu, right click, and I want you to right click and type run, move to run, and type sys sysdm d as in m as in Mike dot cpl control panel c dot cpl. So you're missing the dot between the m. Yeah. .cpl, and then hit OK. This is sort of the same thing. So you can do this on your Windows 10 or 11 machine. So what you're going to do now is where it says full computer name, just below that you can, and then their work group, right? So your work group is right now your laptop or virtual machine is a work group computer. So it's local to you and nobody else. Now, when you're part of a domain, you can also change and make changes to the domain within this area too. So this area is very important when you're making changes to renaming the computer or changing its domain or work group. So I want you to click on change here. And this is where you're going to name your computer. So you're going to delete the computer name. Delete the computer name. Yeah, all of it. And then this is where we're going to give it our nomenclature. And if you go back to our notes that I gave you, the assignment notes should have the computer name that's there. And within those notes there, it tells you to put your first name, right? And then when. It doesn't have to be like, yeah, it can all be, it should be in capitals, right? By default. I don't know. In a lot of companies that I've seen, and like they're all capital, right? So, and then when, and then you could call it server 22 or just call it domain controller, right? You could call it whatever you want. Wayne's domain controller. But remember, another thing I want to note is the computer name, the number of bytes you can add in this box field is 25 characters. So just giving you a heads up, you have 25 characters. So what I would do is you can call it WWDC or WWSDC, which is called Wayne's, or WSDC, WSDC. Instead of saying Wayne, you can say Wayne's WWSDC, which stands for Wayne's Windows Server DC, all together, no spaces. So that's your domain controller, right? And that's your first domain controller, so it'd be 1. Right? We know that's your first domain controller, and then put the date, so I know what the date is, right? So this will tell me the date that you created it, and this also so today is April 25th, or yeah, April 25th, right? Dash, and put the dash between the. Remember, you have 25 characters. It allows, so that computer name field, this is also important, right? Allows for 25 bytes of information, or 25 characters. So that little box right there is 25 bytes. You with me? Right. And then we're not adding it to a domain. We don't have a domain controller. I'll show you how to create a domain controller. We're just gonna hit OK. Right. So, oh, sorry, 15 bytes. My apologies. My apologies. There you go. That was for another project. So right there, you see that? Can you go back? Can you click OK? I just want to take a picture of that. Here, want that? Yeah. Click OK. I just want that.
It's spinning.
Oh, sorry about that. So it's 15 bytes. My apologies. 15. There you go. Oh no. What happened? Okay, hit OK. Can you hit OK? Okay. Okay. Go to change. All right. Add more. Can you just add a bunch of letters and numbers here at the computer name and then hit OK? Yeah, just change it. For example, just add whatever. Just add, and then hit OK. Hit OK. Okay, there you go. So the net BIOS name of the computer is limited to 15 bytes. So which is 15 characters in this case, not 25. My apologies. 15 bytes. So you have 15 characters. So when you're naming the BIOS, it'll shorten it for you. So even if you added 15, it'll take the 16 out and leave you with whatever you named it. So in this instance, it shortened it to WWSDC-25-April-2020 or 2202. In this case, what I would do is just take the 02 and just put 25, right? Does that make sense?
It does.
All right.
Okay.
Then hit OK. But you need to change it now. So you have to change it back. So change it because you've added the extra characters. So right now it looks like you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with the dash, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So right now you have 14 characters. And because you're not joining this to the domain yet, you're just going to leave it as is. Hit OK. Just hit OK. So we're not going to restart. Yeah, you might have to restart the computer. So I'll get you to restart the computer. But before we restart the computer, I just want you to take a look at some settings for me. So because this is a DC, um, I need you to let's see if I can put this in the notepad. Notepad. Oh, sorry, right here. Notepad. Oh, I think you're typing there, Wayne.
So what do we need to do here? I'm sorry.
I saw you were typing there for a second. I just stopped the. Do you need to? You have a question?
No, I'm good for now.
Okay, perfect. All right, so what I wanted to do was I want to give some character to the to this to this domain controller. And what I mean by character is there's some settings that I want. It's a bare machine with just an operating system right now, but there are some settings in here that I want you to kind of uh, take note of because it'll help with you know this machine. Remember, this machine can turn off at any time. It can sleep at any time. It needs to have its name changed. It needs to be in the correct time zone and TP site. It needs to have a lot of these things enabled. And some of these things are all mentioned here within the server manager. So I'm going to click close for now. If you can click close for me, just close out and don't reboot the machine yet and restart later. Then below, I want you to cancel this box here. Right? There's some settings that we need to do. First off, we need to change the way the screen looks because we're not able to, and I want you to cancel here. First thing I want to do is I want to change the way our screen looks. So you know that we're not able to see the full screen into its full capacity, right? So what we need to do is enable something on our hypervisor 2, which enables features and improves our mouse movement, our video, and our performance. Now, in order to do so, logged into our guest operating system, we need to click on install tools. So how do we do that? If you go here, right click here on this tab here or on this on the library area, can you do that for me, Wayne? Right click on this tab where my mouse is. Right click. And I want you to see where it says install VMware tools right there. I want you to click on that for me. And what's going to happen here is, again, we don't have that. We need to make sure that we're logged into our guest operator, which is what we are doing right now. We're logged in, and we don't see the VMware tools installed. What's going to happen is you're going to see a pop-up shortly. If you don't, then what we need to do is, yeah, there we go. There's your pop-up. What that does is, if you click on that box, our notifications area, that'll bring us to our File Explorer. And within our File Explorer, um, well, you missed it. But if you were to click on that, it would bring you to File Explorer. So what I want you to do now is skip that part, and there's a bubble at the right corner there that'll open your notifications area, but it may not be there. It may not. It all depends. Click on that. That's where your notifications area is.
I'm sorry.
The notifications area, there's a bubble there where the time and date is. Click on that. That's your notifications. That's called your Windows Toast notification.
It says no
No
notifications.
new
It says
notifications. Okay, that's fine. You missed that notification. So what happened? What do I do now? What it's doing is it's loading the ISO for your Windows tool, VMware tools inside your virtual machine. So it'll run the virtual machine and enter the setup where D is your D drive is your virtual CD ROM slash DVD drive. So what I want you to do is, and in order to figure if that's mounted or not, we need to open File Explorer. I don't know if you remember File Explorer, the yellow folder icon in Windows, right? And click on this PC on the left side. This PC. This PC on the left side. Left pane, right there. So you see the two drives and devices there at the bottom on the right pane? On the right pane. And on the left pane, you'll see, yeah, if you open that, you should see, if you crack that open, you'll see, yeah, you'll see it there on the left side, and you'll see it on the right side. I want you to click on DVD drive VMware, DVD drive D, VMware tools. Yeah. So this is your VMware tools. I want you to run the software. So there's a setup file. I want you to run the setup file that's currently on that drive where my mouse is. The setup file. That's the auto run. Just a code there. It's probably scripting that needs to be there. Can you close that for me?
close what?
The auto run setup information file. That one.
This
Close
one?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need that file. Double click.
On setup.
Yeah. And you had a question here. What's a good point? Oh, it looks like it's already added. Okay, that's fine. So just hit OK. It says it's installing. Follow the instructions, right? So hit OK where it says another instance of setup is already running. Exiting, hit OK. And then you also asked me a question. What's a good point to stop? Stop what? What are we stopping?
Just
Okay.
next. Press next.
Yeah. Hit OK.
Install.
Install. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stop from here, Wayne. We're past our 2 hour mark. I didn't realize that time went by so quickly. We started a little bit. We started a little bit later with the video. We started almost about 2 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago. We started the lab. So I'm gonna end. Sorry, 2 hours ago. I'm gonna end today's video after this, and we're gonna. What we'll do is we're going to what's the word I want to use? We're going to suspend the guest. So I want you to hit finish and reboot the machine. Yeah, finish. Yeah, and then I want you to restart the machine just to show you that it worked. As you can see now, it's compressed and you can see your full screen, including the recycling bin. Whereas before, yeah, just hit yes, because this will now restart your, so this will restart your computer name. So if we go check the computer name now, that'll
Oh yeah,
be
that's right.
fixed.
Computer name
And
to change
yeah,
computer.
which you changed, and then this also changed the actual scaling of your laptop, so you get a more of a better picture. Just above here, there's these three icons. You see this icon here at the top? That actually gives you full screen mode once you're done. Yeah. So control, yeah, that'll give you the full screen. So that'll get rid of the border around the whole thing, right? Which is kind of eyesoring.
Click on
Uh,
laptop.
yeah. And then Control Alt would be.
To get
Sorry,
out.
say that. You
You
just
want me to
gotta
click on
double.
here?
Yeah, click on that box again. That'll give you the full screen mode, and you'll learn that as we move along. Yeah. All right. So you're now logged in. Can you just log in for me again? Just yeah, minimum. You see that one next to it? You're right now. You're in cycle multiple monitors. You don't have multiple monitors there, but you can set that up. We're not setting up multiple monitors in this class.
No,
So
no, we
no,
don't have.
we're not doing that right now. But our goal is to get you running on these servers, get all these servers running all at once, and then once we have that, we can actually marry them together and have them communicate with each other and do lots of sort of things, right? If you have these machines ready, like I said, we could have this machine ready in, overnight, and now you should be able to have two running at the same time, hopefully, with the same settings with the same settings applied. So for our next class, make sure you have this second server with the same
Hmm.
settings that I have done for this machine here at the top. Okay,
Okay,
so all right, so do a Control Alt Delete, log in, and I want you to open Command Prompt and show me what
right
your
in here.
machine is called. Yeah, yeah, open Command Prompt, and then we should be good to go for tonight. I want to appreciate your time, Wayne. I'll send the video as soon as I can.
I guess we're
Uh,
at Control Alt Delete now because I
yeah,
this
Control
is
Alt Delete. Yeah, you're good. You're good. You should be able to sign in with your password, your
okay.
local administrator.
Yes. Let me get that password here. Yeah. Let me jog my memory here. Uh, I guess we're gonna check and see if the VMware tools
Yeah,
are in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
so VMware tools, you can see right away that it's installed because the screen compressed. Where you're able to move the slider, the slider here, the slider goes up and down, right? Before it was well, it was more like it wasn't actually, do me a favor, can you close the library here? This part right here, close this part. Just close that, and then you can open this after. Close it. Just want to stretch it a little bit more. All right. Did you close that tab?
Just it might be kind of pegged.
Oh, stop control here.
There you go.
Yeah. So, like I said, you can play around with it, and then if you go to the top where the blue monkey wrench is to the right of that, To the right of that, to the right, there's a right icon. The one to the right, that'll bring it back. So click on that. That'll bring back the library. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Just remember that. So what I want you to do is, okay, so the 3 things that we did today, the 4 things that we did today, and I'm going to open up a notepad for you. Just want to review this quickly. If you can click on local server for me on the left side, dashboard, underneath dashboard, in server manager window, in the server manager window, yeah, click on local server. So do you see the computer name?
Yes, that's changed.
Checked, right? It's changed, right? Do you see the Ethernet cards? The 2 Ethernet cards?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, 2 of them.
Okay.
DHCP.
Can you make that a little bit bigger for me? Can you make the screen full? Okay. There's some other, and then the time zone. Can you make sure that the time zone is your time zone reflects on the time zone of the location you're at, so your UTC, so wherever you're located. We're not going to do any updates yet. But I'm going to show you how to fix that as well too. We're not going to download any
I can do it down here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We're not going to download any updates yet. We're not there yet. Adjust time and date. No. Just click on the time zone where it says IE enhanced security configuration time zone. Below that, no.
You don't want to change that? Okay.
All right, so don't click yet. So where it says in the properties window, not the time and date, the virtual machine time and date, but inside the server manager window, right? If you go to the right side, there's last installed updates. You'll see time zone, which is like the 7th down right there. Click on that. Yeah. And this will change your server. This is your VM, right? Not your laptop. This is your server. So right now what you're doing is you're giving it the time zone, which reflects to where your data center is actually located. So where's your data center located? It's located in what time zone? Eastern time zone, right? So we're going to click on that and hit OK. Hit OK.
Okay, I get your point, where the server lives.
Yeah, so where the server lives, right? So we know that so that if we have any issues with NTP after, which is what we spoke about in our last class, because we're also going to set that up in our ESXi, then we know what the issue is, right? So we changed the computer. We know that we have 2 NIC cards. We know that our Windows Defender firewall is turned on, which is okay for now. And then we also know that our time zone is correct. For now, I'm going to stop. And then we also, what else did we do? We showed you how VMware tools was solved. For now, I'm going to stop. I'm going to end today's class. I want to thank you for joining us today. In our next class, we're going to continue to fix the different settings that are accessible in here. So I'm gonna show you how to change the updates, right? So we're gonna you see where it says Windows updates. I'm gonna turn that off and have that managed by our update team. So whoever our patching team is. So if we have a patching team, then our patching team can take care of that, and that could be done through SCCM or MECM or Intune. So I'm going to show you to do that. I'm also going to show you.
Is that a scripting language you're talking about?
Yeah, there's a scripting in here. There's scripting inside here. It's called the server configuration. You ever heard of it? Sconfig?
No, I have this world. I haven't been able to touch that much.
Oh, wow. You're going to learn a lot from me. Trust me, you're going to learn a lot. So we're going to take out that sconfig. I'm also going to show you how to disable the firewall. We're going to turn off IE enhanced. And a bunch of others, time and date. The time and date is important, and what happens when you turn, and then the power management, which is another thing we're going to touch base on. So I'm going to put that, if you can open up a notepad for me quickly, and then I'll say thank you and have a great week. So I just want to put topics, some of the next quick topics that we're going to talk about. And then what I want you to do is copy and paste this for me. and then put that in the chat. So for next class, or take control, I can do it. Actually, you know what? Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll share my screen. I'm just going to stop sharing your content here, and I'm going to share my screen. All right. All right. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna we talked about NTP. We didn't talk about this, so I'll talk about that in the next class. Did I show you how to use the NTP server? Did I show you that?
We're gonna do that next time.
Yeah, okay. All right. So we talked, okay, so in our next session, to be continued, we will give our first domain controller some character, right? And we'll talk about time and date, power, management, updates, enable evaluation license, right? I'll show you. Actually, that I can show you. So what happens is if we didn't give it NAT, and this all has to do with NAT, right? So if we don't give it internet, then we're not enabling that license to 160 days. So that's another reason why we give it NAT. So we need that internet, and that'll also help with this will also help with internet browsing, right? Right. So if we need to download something like we're going to show you how to download internet browsing. Um, we will download Google Chrome together, right? We're going to download that together and install it. Okay. So remember the evaluation is this is actually called activating it. So by giving that NAT, we're activating our domain controller, right? So, and then that is time and date, time zone, which is what we talked about. Power management, I'm going to show you how to turn it up, and then updates. We'll talk about sconfig.exe, and then we will quickly install Hyper-V and install RSAT tools. So that's what we're going to do next week. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great week. Again, this is all to be continued. What I want you to do is suspend the machine or turn it off. You don't have to suspend the machine. You can either suspend the machine or you can turn off the machine. So if you right click on the settings, go to power, and then there's three options. There's shut down guest, there's suspend guest, or restart the machine. If you restart the guest, you're not using it. It'll stop from utilizing your server or your laptop resources so that you're able to work. If you don't shut it off, then you're using your resources. Okay?
Does the same thing too, right?
Sorry?
Power off does the same. Won't use.
Yeah, you can power. Yeah, you can power it off too. But I'm saying if you still want to practice, what I would recommend is keep it to the same. So, for example, if you're in a lab environment, you're keeping it, you're letting it run, right? You're letting it breathe, you're letting it work. It's magic, right?
Right.
So you're this is your first data center. This is your first on-premises environment that you're designing, right? So as we're architecting this for ourselves, right? We're learning how to use the actual services, right? That are allotted for a real life environment. Remember, this is the test environment. And in a production environment, these things are very important, right? Especially when you're designing these, right?
As we end, yeah.
As we end, do you have any questions before I let you go?
Yes, yes, sir. So I will get this, like, I'll upgrade my RAM from 16, from 8 to 16 gigabytes
Mhm.
of memory. So I'm going to shut all this down because I'll probably get that in a day or two. And we'll see how, if that causes any issues, but I should go up to 16 gigs of memory. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out.
Awesome. Again, we can work with the 8 GB, but there's a lot of constraints. There's time constraints. There's a lot of things that we need to take into a what's the word? We need to take into effect, especially when we're doing these sorts of we call it stunts. These are stunts, right? I call them stunts, right? They're stunts. So again, in our next session, to be continued, guys. I want to thank you again. My name is Sal Cosentino. Have yourself a great week, and I'm gonna sign off
All right.
here.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
I just stopped.